Viking, Europe, I am coming. Another Viking, what are you doing inside? Viking, I am coming for Europe. Another Viking, what? You mean you want to attack Europe? In the year 900, Europe was swarming with Viking raiders. Vikings fantasized about European states in every way, thinking how romantically they would carry out the attacks. But not every raid goes smoothly. Still, the king of the Franks admires the Vikings' toughness and strikes a deal. They get land in northern France if they protect the Franks from other Viking attacks. The Vikings agree, setting up the Duchy of Normandy. Fast forward to England, Edward succeeds in taking the throne. However, becoming a king in the Middle Ages came with uncertainty. Support is shaky, rebellions loom, and seizing power is a must. Luckily for Edward, there's already a big shot in England who could swing things his way. If he can rally that support, England could be his choice. And so begins Edward's reign. After a tense showdown where Edward kicked Godwin out of the kingdom, he eventually caved in, letting him hold on to his earldom, maybe after Godwin flashed some serious cash and begged for forgiveness. Godwin, forgive me, your majesty. Edward, I cannot. Your sins are heavier. Godwin, how heavy, my lord? Edward, at least half of your money worth heavy. Godwin, I am giving you all my wealth, not half. Edward, but you are forgetting something. I want your daughter. Godwin, she is yours, my lord, day and night. Edward, you are forgiven. Godwin. King Edward tied the knot with Godwin's daughter. But when Godwin died, his hefty fortune went to his sons, who all snagged earldoms. One of them, in particular, got the title of Earl of Wessex. Harold Godwinson, now Edward's brother-in-law, stepped up as a trusted advisor to the king, a fearless fighter with a track record of taking down Welsh foes, and in many ways, he was like a co-ruler. Edward got old and found himself on his deathbed. But Edward had forgotten the most important job as a king. He skipped out on making babies, leaving the throne up for grabs. But here's the twist. Edward's mother had Norman roots, and he spent a chunk of his childhood rubbing elbows with Norman high society in Normandy. And guess who was ruling over there? None other than William the Bastard. Wonder why he got that nickname. Legend has it that his dad, sneaking out of the castle, claimed he was off to the tanner's for a tan, but was actually sneaking off to see the tanner's daughter. Fast forward, and baby William arrives, born out of wedlock, earning him the title of a royal outcast. Aristocrat's son. I am the son of a great landlord. Military general's son. I am the son of a great general. William. I am the son of the king who was so humble that he visited my mom during nights in little huts. A man from the crowd. You are the royal blood, so I agree with you. Please tell me where that little hut is and if your mother still lives there. Growing up dodging assassination attempts toughened William. When the town of Alençon tried to rebel against him in 1051, William came down hard. Learning of Edward's supposed promise to hand him the throne, William was all in. Meanwhile, Harold Godwinson's promise to William about taking the throne, made over holy relics, only added fuel to the fire. William. Seize Godwinson's family, tie them up, and send them to the dungeon? William. Now tell me, Godwinson, do you promise from your open heart, without any pressure, that I could have the throne? Godwinson. Yes, I promise, without any pressure. William. I trust his words. Besides William, Harold Godwinson also wanted the throne. However, here comes another player, the King of Norway, a battle-hardened mercenary who had fought all over Europe, racking up wealth before taking the throne. One of Norway's earlier kings had cut a deal with an English Viking leader, agreeing that once the Viking England king died, the Norwegian king would swoop in and take over the English throne. Now, the King of Norway felt entitled to take over England due to this deal. So, when he got word that Edward was on his deathbed, he started planning an attack on England. Now, with three big players all eyeing the English throne, it looked like a clash was brewing. Meanwhile, in England, Harold Godwinson was watching over the dying King Edward. Once he died, he announced that King Edward had told him to be the next king. Usually, crowning a new king was a major task that took ages to plan, but Harold rushed things and got himself crowned on the same day they buried Edward. Meanwhile, over in Normandy, William's advisors came rushing, telling him about Harold's taking the throne. William sends his advisors to Harold, asking him to submit the throne for William. But Harold declines. William wastes no time gathering his troops and getting ready to invade. The only plan was to kill Harold, a sitting king, and take the throne. However, killing a king was not that normal back in those days, with them being holy and having God on their side. Soldier A. We won't fight and kill England's king. That's wrong. Soldier B. Yes, the king is the man of God. William, let's ask what God has to say on this, William. Can we take Harold out, Pope? Pope, of course, but death has to be painless, my son. Soldier A, see, I told you, painless would be ethical. Soldiers, let's go. Now everything is set except for one problem, the wind. It's blowing the wrong way, leaving William and his army stuck in Normandy, while Harold chills down south in England. They wait and wait and wait some more. Soldier, shall we go, my king? William, no. Soldier, shall we go now, my king? William, no. Soldier, shall we go now, my king? William, no. Finally, William has had enough. He orders to sail for England, only to get shipwrecked because the wind's still blowing the wrong way. So he decides to hang tight a bit longer. For 2 long months they waited, but the wind refused to cooperate. Eventually, Godwinson got anxious, and his troops ran low on supplies. He asked them to pack up and return to London, leaving the southern coast wide open. Meanwhile, William had no choice but to sit tight in Normandy, grounded by the unyielding northerly wind. At the same time, this wind helped the King of Norway and his Viking army toward England. He made landfall near the ancient Viking stronghold of York, where he defeated a local army led by the northern earls, prompting York to surrender. When Godwinson caught wind of this, he was probably boiling. After disbanding his forces, he had to run to gather them again and hustle northward. Miraculously, he pulled off the grueling journey in just 4 days, catching the Vikings off guard and totally unprepared for a fight. The 2 armies squared off on opposite banks of the river Derwent. Legend has it that a fearless Viking warrior held the bridge crossing the river all by himself, dodging arrows and fighting off attackers until English soldiers hiding in a barrel took him down. This gave the Vikings enough time to set up a defensive shield wall, though many were caught without their gear. Nonetheless, the English overwhelmed them, ultimately taking down the King of Norway and spelling the end of the Viking era in England. However, the threat for Harold was far from over. With a collective sigh of relief, William's massive fleet of over 700 ships and 14,000 men set sail and landed on the English coast at Pevensey, setting up camp near Hastings. Meanwhile, Harold Godwinson was still way up north in York. His worn-out army had to crawl all the way back south just days after their showdown with the Vikings. Eventually, Harold returned to London and contemplated the idea of waiting for William to come to him. But William's aggressive tactics, like burning down villages, forced Harold's hand. On October 14, 1066, Harold's troops marched out to face William's, gearing up for the decisive Battle of Hastings. Positioned atop a hill, the English hunkered down, knowing it gave them a leg up. Despite William's fancy footwork, like his sharpshooters, the English formed a solid shield wall. When William's infantry charged uphill, they met fierce resistance. Despite their best efforts, the Normans just couldn't break through the English defenses. Then came the Normans' next strategic advantage. William unleashed his cavalry to charge up the hill, but even they found it difficult to breach the defenses of the shield wall. Despite waves of infantry and cavalry pressing forward, Harold remained confident that all he needed to do was let the Normans tire themselves out, and victory would be assured. However, an unexpected turn of events occurred. It's possible the Normans mistakenly believed William had fallen. Perhaps their morale waned against the resilient shield wall, or it might have been a deliberate deception. But suddenly, the Norman forces turned and fled from the English. Believing they had secured victory, the English broke formation and pursued the retreating Normans, only to find themselves encircled as the Normans swiftly turned back, cutting down the English troops. Amidst the chaos, Harold Godwinson met his demise, with the prevailing theory being that an arrow in the eye struck him. With the English defeated, William emerged as the victor. No longer merely a bastard, he now earned the title of conqueror. Initially hesitant to crown him king, the English nobles succumbed to William's ruthless tactics, including burning more villages, and offered him the crown. As he was crowned, the local villagers in Westminster erupted in cheers, which William mistook for a riot, leading him to order the village to be razed to the ground. William's English advisor: "My king, the village was cheering for you." William: "I know that. Do you think I don't know this?" William then embarked on a prolonged and costly campaign to quash rebellions and devastate villages across England, solidifying Norman rule. England underwent a profound transformation under its new rulers. English nobility was replaced by Normans who erected grand castles and cathedrals. Yet, one of the most enduring changes occurred within the English language. The Normans introduced their French dialect to England, merging it with Old English and shaping the language we know today. Words associated with authority, such as government, judge, castle, and crown, bear Norman influence. Words deemed more refined or sophisticated often have Norman origins. Initially, animosity likely existed between the Anglo-Saxons and the Normans. An Anglo-Saxon might enter a room, while a Norman would enter a chamber. An Anglo-Saxon might buy a shirt, whereas a Norman would purchase a blouse. And while a commoner's new shirt might be described as fair, a Norman blouse would be considered beautiful. But there's more to this story of language evolution. When asking about an Anglo-Saxon's job, they might mention simpler trades like being a baker, a miller, or a shoemaker. On the other hand, a Norman would likely boast a more refined profession, such as being a painter, a tailor, or a merchant. While Anglo-Saxon farmers tended to their cows, pigs, and sheep in the fields, once these animals graced a Norman feast, they were dubbed beef, pork, and mutton. Today, even though English speakers might brag about their language, it's highly influenced by the Normans. If the Battle of Hastings had not happened, the English would have been much different today. Or what if the King of Norway had won the battle? Please leave your comment and catch us on our next video.